We all remember the adrenaline rush of watching our favorite action scenes, the explosions, the stunts, the impossible escapes. It's pure cinematic fiction, or at least, that's what we're supposed to believe. But what happens when a film stops pretending and crosses the line into something a little too real? Some movies blurred that line so perfectly. Even critics, censors, and law enforcement couldn't tell what was fiction and what was dangerous fact. A stunt goes too far, a scream sounds too convincing, a bullet hole looks too clean. And suddenly, what should be another action set piece becomes a subject of controversy, confusion, or outright fear. In a world where film is meant to simulate danger, a few directors pushed for something raw, something visceral. Whether through guerrilla filmmaking, unscripted reactions, or just reckless ambition, they captured moments that felt more like leaked footage than scripted cinema. Some were banned. Some were investigated. A few were even believed to be real crimes captured on camera. Behind these frames lies chaos, untrained extras dodging explosions, actors refusing safety wires, governments questioning a film's authenticity. And yet, the audience watched in awe, unsure if they were witnessing Hollywood magic or something much darker. So tonight, we peel back the layers of illusion and step into a shadowy corner of cinema where realism went too far, and no one could look away. Let's count down 15 action films that didn't just look real, they felt too real for comfort. Fact has shown Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. This film didn't just feel real, it was legally assumed to be real. Ruggero Deodato's Cannibal Holocaust is infamous for its disturbing realism. Marketed as a found footage account of American documentarians lost in the Amazon, it featured grotesque violence, sexual assault, and a level of practical effects unseen at the time. Behind these frames lies chaos, untrained extras dodging explosions, actors refusing safety wires, governments questioning a film's authenticity. And yet, the audience watched in awe, unsure if they were witnessing Hollywood magic or something much darker. The Italian government believed Cannibal Holocaust was a real snuff film. And the worst part? They had reasons to. The actors had signed contracts agreeing to disappear for 1 year to promote the authenticity of the story. They vanished from public life, no press, no interviews. Their characters died on screen, and so, apparently, did they. The court ordered Deodato to produce the actors alive. He did. Only then were the charges dropped. But the controversy didn't stop there. Real animals were killed on set. One scene shows a live turtle butchered. That wasn't fake. It was real. And it happened on camera. Censorship boards in over 50 countries banned the film. But bootlegs thrived. To this day, Cannibal Holocaust remains the most notorious case of fiction mistaken for fact in cinema history. Because sometimes, the line doesn't just blur, it breaks. Fact #2Man Bites Dog, 1992. Marketed as a black comedy, Man Bites Dog was anything but funny. The Belgian mockumentary follows a charismatic serial killer, filmed by a complicit documentary crew. It's graphic, nihilistic, and so disturbingly real that audiences weren't sure where the fiction ended. Shot in grainy black and white, the film uses handheld camera and improvised dialogue. There's no soundtrack, just raw ambient sound. Murder scenes unfold with eerie normalcy. Victims scream and beg in ways that don't feel scripted. Censorship boards across Europe hesitated. Was this art or a snuff film? At Cannes, some viewers walked out. Others stayed and demanded proof that the killings were fake. The filmmakers had to release behind-the-scenes stills showing the actors alive and well. Even then, rumors persisted that one death scene used a real corpse. The most haunting moment? A rape and murder committed while the crew silently films. There's no music, no cuts, just breath, then silence. Was it scripted? Yes. But every frame challenges the viewer. If you're still watching, are you complicit too? Man Bites Dog didn't blur the line between reality and fiction. It erased it and dared you to cross it. But the Hashon film on this list didn't just trick audiences. It fooled the courts. Fact #3, Turkey Shoot, 1982. Also known as Escape 2000, this Australian exploitation gem promised cartoonish violence and dystopian mayhem. But during one infamous scene, the film stumbled into something far more unsettling. A character is hunted down and shot in a wide-open jungle clearing. Standard setup. But the footage shows a figure dropping in the background far behind the intended frame. No reaction, no cut. Just a blurry fall. Conspiracy forums exploded years later. Viewers slowed down the footage and insisted the body in the distance wasn't an extra. Some claimed it was a real hunter, accidentally caught in the background. Others said it was a wild animal shot on camera and never acknowledged in the credits. The director denied everything, calling it a trick of the shadows. But one camera operator later admitted, "That wasn't in the script. I still don't know what we filmed." Film preservationists tried to locate the original reels for analysis, but they're gone. The only surviving copy is a low-resolution master tape, with the glitch intact. To this day, no one knows what fell behind that tree line. Sometimes, the most disturbing action isn't in the spotlight, it's just out of frame. And in the next film, what's in frame was too convincing for law enforcement to ignore. FACT-4 Southern Comfort, 1981. Louisiana swamps. National Guardsmen. Locals with guns. It all sounds like the setup to a tense thriller, and it was. But on the set of Southern Comfort, the tension wasn't just scripted. Walter Hill's film followed a group of weekend soldiers who get lost and hunted in the bayou. To enhance realism, the cast was sent into actual wetlands with little instruction, no trailers, and minimal stunt coordination. The idea? Get raw fear on camera. It worked. FACT-4 Southern Comfort, 1981. Even more disturbing, local hunters had not been informed about filming. On one occasion, the crew heard gunshots nearby and briefly believed they were under fire. Production halted. The footage captured during those moments, shaky, disoriented, and full of genuine dread, was later restructured into the final cut. The film became a metaphor for the chaos of war. Fittingly, so did the shoot itself. But nothing could prepare audiences for what came next, a film so realistic. Its creators were accused of murder. FACT-5 Death Wish, 31985. Charles Bronson was back. The guns were bigger, the violence louder. But in one unforgettable scene, Death Wish 3 crossed a boundary even the crew didn't anticipate. Set in a crumbling New York neighborhood, actually East London, the production didn't fully shut down the streets. Locals weren't warned. And during a daytime shootout sequence, real bystanders mistook it for a gang war. The scene featured Bronson firing a mounted machine gun from a window. The blanks were loud, so loud that a nearby bakery owner ran out, ducked for cover, and called police. Within minutes, 4 patrol cars arrived, guns drawn. The crew had to pause mid-shot and hold identification cards in the air. One officer reportedly yelled, "This isn't a movie, this is madness." But it got worse. In a different scene, a stunt double crashed through a door that wasn't properly prepped. He cut open his forearm badly. Blood covered the floor. The crew, thinking it was a prop gag, kept rolling. It wasn't until he collapsed that they realized he was genuinely injured. That take? It's still in the final film. Death Wish 3 was meant to be cartoonish violence. Instead, it delivered a moment where audience and actor alike witnessed real harm hidden behind Bronson's glare. And then came a film where the fear wasn't scripted, it was survival instinct. FACT-6, Running Scared, 2006. Paul Walker was known for high-octane chases, but Running Scared wasn't fast and furious. It was something darker, more visceral. And in one particular sequence, it became too real even for him. There's a scene where Walker's character is trapped in a tile factory, being hunted through narrow, echoing corridors. The camera swirls in handheld chaos. The sound is raw, panting, scraping shoes, muted gunshots. There's no music, no glamour, just fear. Behind the scenes, the set was partially active. The crew used a real factory, and some of the dust and debris were genuine hazards. Walker, determined to push the scene, requested the crew not call cut during takes. He wanted to get lost in it, and he did. Mid-chase, he slipped on loose tile fragments, hit his knee on metal piping, and kept running, screaming in pain. That scream stayed in the film. Even more unnerving, one of the stuntmen missed a cue, entered too early, and Walker reacted by firing a blank at close range. The panic you see in the scene isn't choreography, it's a moment when no one was sure what was acting anymore. The director later admitted, that entire sequence was built on controlled chaos, sometimes too controlled. What made it into the final cut was pure cinematic panic and a moment when even professionals couldn't tell where fiction ended. But the next film proved that losing control was sometimes the whole point. FACT-7 Act of Valor, 2012. What happens when you don't hire actors but deploy soldiers? Act of Valor was Hollywood's bold experiment. Cast active-duty Navy SEALs to play themselves in a fictional plot. The idea was to achieve realism no actor could fake. The result? A film that felt more like a leaked training video than a scripted blockbuster. From weapon handling to battlefield strategy, everything was authentic. Dialogue was minimal because real soldiers don't deliver speeches mid-firefight. Instead, they moved like ghosts, communicated in terse commands, and executed maneuvers with deadly precision. But the realism came at a price. During one ocean infiltration scene, the SEALs were dropped into rough seas. One operator nearly drowned. Another suffered a shoulder injury from full-speed boat extraction, no stunt doubles, no CGI. Viewers praised the intensity but noted how cold and distant the characters felt. That wasn't bad acting, it was real military detachment. More than once, the Pentagon stepped in during post-production to ensure no classified tactics or equipment were exposed. Rumors even surfaced that some scenes were cut because they resembled ongoing Black Ops missions. In the end, Act of Valor didn't just depict realism, it was realism, blurred just enough to pass for fiction. And yet, our next film shows that sometimes even fiction can't mask the blood. FACT, Komadlapan, Combat Shock, 1984. Released under the guise of a grindhouse horror action film, Combat Shock is anything but popcorn entertainment. It follows a Vietnam veteran suffering from PTSD, navigating a decaying urban hellscape. And it does so with such bleak realism, audiences walked out of theaters not from boredom, but from emotional collapse. Director Buddy Giovinazzo filmed in real abandoned neighborhoods of Staten Island, surrounded by actual drug addicts and homeless residents. His brother, Ricky, played the lead role not for performance value, but because he had lived in similar trauma. The actor didn't act, he relived. FACT, Komadlapan, Combat Shock, 1984. The film was banned from several European festivals. Some called it tasteless, others called it prophetic. But most chilling? The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs reportedly contacted the filmmakers requesting access to a copy for internal training on PTSD symptoms. It's not often an action film gets repurposed as psychological study material. But then again, Combat Shock was never just a film. And the next entry proves that sometimes the line between soldier and actor doesn't exist at all. Fact #9 Siege 1983. On the surface, Siege was a low-budget Canadian exploitation thriller. But on release, it was confused for a real-life crime. Set during a fictional police strike in Halifax, the film follows a vigilante group who terrorize civilians until one man decides to fight back. It was meant to be hyper-stylized and grim. But thanks to handheld camera work, natural lighting, and casting of non-professional actors, the result looked uncomfortably real. In fact, too real. When the film aired on cable TV in the late 80s, a news station in Ontario mistakenly used a clip from Siege as B-roll in a segment about gang violence. It took 2 full days and a viewer tip to realize the mistake. The confusion didn't stop there. A newspaper in Nova Scotia ran a photo from the film on its crime blotter page. The editors apologized, claiming the image was misfiled by a freelance contributor. But insiders whispered otherwise. Part of the issue? Siege was shot on locations without permits. Some scenes, like the home invasion, used real apartment complexes with residents unaware they were part of a film. The reaction shots? Some were genuine. It's rare for fiction to be so convincing it ends up in the news twice. But the next film didn't mimic trauma. It reconstructed it with terrifying precision. Fact #0. The Park is Mine, 1986. The premise: a Vietnam vet takes over Central Park to protest how veterans are treated. The execution? A full military occupation of a public space filmed without warning the public. The Park is Mine stars Tommy Lee Jones in one of his most underrated roles. But while the film explores trauma and rebellion, the shoot itself caused panic. Scenes of tanks rolling into Manhattan, soldiers taking sniper positions on rooftops, and simulated explosions in the park, all filmed guerrilla style, often at night, often without proper clearance. On more than one occasion, police were called by terrified bystanders. One patrol car reportedly approached a scene with weapons drawn, believing a real hostage crisis was unfolding. The film crew had to defuse the situation mid-take. A city council member later accused the production of weaponizing film to traumatize the public. The producers argued they'd filed the minimum paperwork. The footage? It stayed in. When the film aired, veterans praised its rawness. Civilians? Not so much. It wasn't just a story about a man taking back his city. For a few nights in 1986, he actually did. And the next film proves you don't need tanks to start a panic, just the right kind of silence. Fact Hassonon McBain, 1991. Christopher Walken plays a rogue soldier leading a revolution in Colombia. It's explosive, outrageous, and so drenched in 90 seconds action cliches you almost miss something. The war scenes feel real. Not just gritty real, but CNN real. The gunfire doesn't echo like in Hollywood. It snaps. The chaos isn't choreographed, it unfolds. Blood spray is minimal, but the confusion is maximum. Critics pointed out that the cinematography mimicked handheld news coverage, and that some of the extras appeared to be actual civilians, not actors. Even stranger, multiple journalists from Latin America accused the film of using real conflict footage. One NGO even suggested that a village scene had been filmed without permits during ongoing paramilitary tension. The filmmakers denied it, of course. But documents later revealed the production had flown into unstable zones with limited crew and had paid locals cash only to appear in uniform. Walken himself, in an old interview, said, "There were days I didn't know if we were filming a movie or waiting for someone to start shooting back." McBain marketed itself as Hollywood escapism. But in hindsight, it might have been closer to a documentary, just one that no one admitted filming. And if that blurs the line, the next one erased it entirely. Fact Hassonon Deadly Outbreak, 1995. It was just another direct-to-video action flick. Explosions, terrorists, a bioweapon lab, nothing out of the ordinary. Until the rooftop chase. In Deadly Outbreak, a stuntman leaps from a high-rise walkway to a moving scaffold, a textbook stunt with wires, pads, and rehearsals. But on the day of filming, something went wrong. The wire system jammed. The actor's foot slipped mid-jump. He hit the platform with his shoulder, spun off balance, and slammed into the rig. Fact Hassonon Deadly Outbreak, 1995. The final cut doesn't blink. No camera shake, no soft edits. You watch a man hit steel at full speed and groan. It's uncomfortably raw. So raw that early viewers asked whether the actor had survived. He had, but barely. The scene made it into the trailer. The producers never disclosed the injury, and for years, action fans debated whether the fall was real. It was. But sometimes, what looks fake is even more disturbing when it's not staged at all. Fact has Hassonon 3 Stone Cold, 1991. Brian Bosworth wasn't known for subtlety, and Stone Cold is anything but subtle. A wild ride of biker gangs, corrupt feds, and brutal justice. The film was a testosterone-soaked fever dream. But one scene stood apart because it felt real in the worst possible way. A character is captured and tortured for information. The sequence lasts several minutes, shot in an unbroken take. No music, no flashy cuts, just raw suffering. Bosworth, playing the lead, is visibly shaken, not in character, but as himself. Crew members later admitted that the director pushed for genuine discomfort. The room temperature was lowered to freezing. The restraints were real. The actor playing the torturer was told to go method, and he did. At one point, Bosworth's scream interrupted filming not because it was scripted, but because he dislocated a shoulder. Despite the incident, the scene made the final cut. Viewers weren't sure whether they were watching, acting, or witnessing something that had gone off the rails. Stone Cold was marketed as over-the-top 90 seconds action. But beneath the bullets and bikes lies a moment of raw, unsimulated pain, a glimpse into how far some films will go to sell a feeling. And the next film? The pain was real, but it came from behind the camera. Fact Hassonon 4, The Final Sanction, 1990. There's something unnerving about a film that looks too polished for its budget. The Final Sanction was a low-budget action thriller about two elite soldiers locked in a one-on-one deathmatch to prevent global war. Simple premise. Cheap production. But something felt off. The gunplay was disturbingly realistic. Muzzle flashes matched real military calibration. The actors' trigger discipline and cover movements mirrored actual combat training. Even the sound design felt lifted straight from battlefield recordings. Rumors began to circulate. Some of the footage wasn't staged at all. Allegedly, parts of the film had been spliced with archival military training videos. Sharp-eyed viewers noted discrepancies in film grain, lighting, and resolution suggesting something had been edited in. The film's director denied everything, but remained suspiciously vague about the sources of certain scenes. One particular sniper sequence was so convincing it was shared online years later as supposed real war footage. It took digital analysts to debunk it. Was it just clever editing or a cinematic sleight of hand that crossed ethical lines? What's certain is that the final sanction didn't just aim for realism, it borrowed it. But the next film didn't just imitate trauma, it made actors live it. FACT, Hasson 5 Night Siege, Project UFO, 1978. It aired as just another TV dramatization. But by the time the final credits rolled, Night Siege had already sparked a different kind of reaction paranoia. This 1978 made-for-TV film drew direct inspiration from real-life UFO sightings and military investigations. On paper, it was harmless, speculative fiction. But the execution was something else entirely. The film's producers collaborated with ex-military advisors, used declassified documents, and filmed in locations eerily similar to real government installations. The actors were coached to behave like actual personnel under stress, right down to communication protocols and jargon. The result? A visual experience that felt more like leaked footage than television drama. Viewers flooded local news stations, convinced they'd seen a censored broadcast of a government operation. Some even filed Freedom of Information Act requests, believing the network had accidentally aired a classified event. What disturbed people wasn't aliens, it was how closely the military response mimicked real life. The Pentagon reportedly received inquiries about whether the broadcast was authorized. Night Siege blurred the line not with gore, but with authenticity. And the fear it stirred wasn't about extraterrestrials, but the idea that the truth had slipped through under the guise of fiction. But that was just television. In theaters, things got even murkier. Asterisk. Bonus fact. The helicopter scene that vanished. Unreleased, 1987. This one didn't make the top 15, but it might just be the strangest of all. In 1987, an independent film crew began shooting a low-budget action movie in the Nevada desert. The title? Lost to Time. The footage? Never officially released. But among stunt coordinators, the story of the helicopter scene still circulates like a campfire myth. According to insiders, a pivotal action sequence involved a helicopter chasing a pickup truck across rocky terrain. The scene was ambitious too. Ambitious. The production had no permit, limited insurance, and the pilot was a Vietnam veteran with a do-it-live attitude. During the take, the chopper dove too low. Its skids clipped a boulder. It spun, stabilized, and regained altitude, but barely. The stuntman driving the truck thought he was going to die. The reaction on his face, reportedly, was so raw that the director called it Oscar-worthy. But here's the twist. A week later, the production shut down. No wrap, no press, no release. Rumors say the footage was destroyed after the FAA got involved. Others claim a single VHS copy survived locked away in a storage unit in Utah. No one has confirmed its existence. All that remains are whispers of a stunt so dangerous, so real, that even the most reckless filmmakers decided no one should ever see it. Because sometimes, even the camera looks away. Which of these scenes blurred the line for you? Was it the hidden terror behind a shaky handheld shot? Or the raw scream that no one yelled "cut" on? Did the filmmakers go too far or just far enough to make you believe? Tell us, what's the most real action moment you've ever seen, and did it leave you thrilled or unsettled?